Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie
There you
Sticks.
go.
Nice timing there on the intro today. We did not
Thank you.
rehearse that,
We didn't.
that was all on the fly.
None of this is rehearsed.
Never
This
is.
is all
Was.
spontaneous awesomeness.
Which I think probably comes shining through to people. They're not surprised at that. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, coming to you as always from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. And we have some upgrades to the studio here today. We've got like on-air stickers and lights and all that stuff.
Yes. So real quick, we put this whole light fixture up right outside the door with the big red light bulb. And we also have stickers on the door letting people know we're on air so they don't mess with us. Every once in a while, Amazon will come and just walk in the door and just start knocking on doors. So,
well, Amazon, rightly so, feels like they run at their own pace and speed.
And they run the world.
And they do. This is episode number 35. For those of you following on the Spanish dial, that would be 35. For those following, I'm right on that, right?
I think that's the last number you get before you add the E.
Okay, so
next week.
And that brings up the topic that next week we will be back to every week. Congratulations, Dougie Sticks. We will be every week now going forward, as I've been able to sort out end of the school year stuff. Kind of works in my favor a little bit. So we will be back on next week, and you can tune in for a horrible Spanish pronunciation. It sounds like for sure coming up next week. You can send your questions at any time, and we are going to answer some of them today. And you can send them to mypbshow@gmail.com. I will say that again for those not watching on the screen where it comes flying across the screen. That is mypbshow@gmail.com. And you can listen to us, of course, on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and maybe some other ways if you are a detective enough, if that's a verb, I guess, to find us out there. And away we go.
You'll find us
on episode 35.
Yes.
And speaking of finding us, the Rangers have found their new head coach.
Look at you with the segues today.
Well, I tell you,
just boom, boom, boom.
It must be all the upgrades here at the studio.
Yeah,
you're just feeding. We're feeding off of them. So, if we go back to an episode, now I don't know the number episode it was, and I certainly am not going to pronounce whatever episode it was in Spanish because I can't do that. But if we go back to an episode that we had in March, the Rangers were kind of not playing well. They were very inconsistent. They had struggled, and David Quinn, the coach of the Rangers at the time, came down with COVID, tested positive, and was out for 2 weeks on protocol. And the Rangers had their coach from Hartford, their AHL affiliate and the minors, come up and fill in. And the Rangers played very well in those 2 weeks, and they just struggled when David Quinn got back again. And I said at the time, look, this is the evidence here that David Quinn is not the right man for this job. If you just look at the last 2 weeks, which wouldn't be a fair sample size, you really got to look at the whole thing. But those 2 weeks were really indicative of a coaching change need to be made. And you had asked me, because I know you don't know this answer with your hockey wisdom. You said, okay, well, you want to get rid of David Quinn. Who do you want the Rangers to get?
Yes.
Which was a good question at the time.
Yes.
That's a Doug question, right? Look like, a hockey aficionado over there. So I had said back in March, I said they should 110% be going after Gerard Gallant, who was fired a year and a half ago from the Vegas Golden Knights. He was a head coach in Florida. He had some success down there. He then got the job to run the expansion franchise of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, everybody knows what that means, but in case you don't, expansion means this is the first year the Vegas Golden Knights ever existed. This roster was kind of put together in a draft, kind of like you and I do in fantasy football every year. I'll take this guy. I'll take this guy. He took that team that was not only a first-year team playing together, they were a first-year organization and went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018 where they lost to the Washington Capitals. Then in the following year, he got fired. And we never really got the reasons why, but when he got fired by Vegas, he had another good record. I believe they were like 32-15 or something like that. So to me, the fact that he remained on the free agency market, if you will, of hockey for that long was a surprise because he has been the go-to candidate. So the Rangers yesterday make it official and do what I wanted them to do back in March and name Gerard Gallant the head coach. Are you excited about this?
Yeah, I'm excited that you called it.
Well, I wouldn't say I called it because, with the Rangers, you don't want to call it because they're liable. They can do something stupid, right? There could be the obvious answer in front of you and you call it and then you're like, well, what did they do that for? That was what I thought was the right move to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like they did that.
Nice.
Well, not looks like they did that. They made it official yesterday. So Gerard Gallant had his press conference yesterday and really says all the right things. Now, I don't want to read in. I don't think on any sport you can read into a coach's introductory press conference and say, okay, he's the right man for the job or he's not. But he did say all the right things yesterday. And one of the things I liked that he said was that everybody's going to play. So Alexis Lafreniere, who's now going to be in his second year, Capo Caco is now going to be in his third year. These guys are going to play. David Quinn, and it is a knock on him, had a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of a consistency, if you will, of letting the young kids not play as much. If they're going to develop and get to where we think their ceilings are for their careers, they need to play.
Yeah.
So this is the right man for the job. The other thing he said yesterday, which I loved, it may have been my favorite quote, was that he wants to be the hardest working team in the league. He wants to make it hard to play against every night. It has been a knock on the Rangers for the past 10 years, and we saw this with the Tom Wilson episode back in May, that the Rangers are never the hardest working team in the league. They're never the toughest team in the league. They're not going to grind you. They're not going to forecheck you into the corners for 60 minutes and play a north-south hockey game, 200 feet. So this is the type of style he wants to play. It will be very interesting to see now how they do under his system, because his system has done well. And as he said yesterday, and he's 100% correct, he's inheriting a lot of young talent. To me, if you were a coach in this offseason and you looked at the places or the organizations that needed to fill their coaching jobs, the Rangers would be the top of the line, because not only are you at an original six franchise, but you're inheriting a team here that's possibly on the cusp of being in the Stanley Cup window of opportunity for 3 to 5 years or so. So it was the right call. Now we will see what the Rangers will do, and we will talk about this, of course, in the next month or two, what they're going to do here in the offseason. The number one question with the Rangers, anytime you look right now, is will they try to acquire Jack Eichel from the Buffalo Sabres? Myself, I'm not really for that decision, but I think it will be interesting to watch, because Chris Drury, the general manager of the Rangers, now he is a Jack Eichel guy. They both went to BU, as did I. So out of the three of us, we know who the worst hockey player is between Drury, me, and Jack Eichel. But it will be interesting to see, because Chris Drury is absolutely going to make the phone calls. I think they probably already happened, and make offers. It's a matter of if their offer is good enough to get him. And also, you do not want to sacrifice a lot of your future for a player that has been injured, right?
Yeah, like what are the pros and cons here, Jeff? Like, what do we have to give up here?
The pros here is this. If you want to argue the pros, if he's healthy, he is one of the top players in the league, and he's a center, which is a spot the Rangers need to fill. Yeah. So if you add a Jack Eichel to your roster and he's healthy and he's not injured, which some people think he's not, then it's a massive upgrade in your immediate lineup. But the question and the downside of all of it is what you just mentioned, is what do you have to give up, right? Buffalo is not going to give up the number 2 overall draft pick from a few years ago, who's had a good career so far up until this year, for nothing. You're going to have to give up a lot of assets. You're going to have to give up a combination of players plus assets. So to me, I've read maybe Capo Caco. That's not acceptable. You can't give up a Capo Caco after a second season. Yeah. We don't know where he is yet. You can't give him up for a player who's coming in that we don't know if he's injured. We don't know his past with that and his track record there. So you've got to be careful of what you give up. I don't really have a problem with the Rangers giving up assets. They've done a good job over the years acquiring picks, so they do have picks they can give up, but it's going to take a lot more than that. If you wanted to tell me you wanted to give up Pavel Buchnevich and throw him in the deal, I guess I could live with it. I'd be okay with that. But there are just some players, obviously, and they probably don't need to be mentioned, the Panarins of the world, the Adam Foxes, the Kakos, the Lafreniere, that are just untouchable, right? And so you've got to make sure you're avoiding those players in a deal.
Doesn't seem worth it. It seems like you're trying to trade your future for your right now to win right now, and that doesn't ever pan out for teams.
And that's a good point, because the Rangers are not, even though some fans are a little bit delusional with this, they're close, but it's not right now, right? They are a couple years away. Would I be surprised under their first year coach next year if they do really well? No, I wouldn't. Maybe they can make a run. Hey, we're going to get into it in a couple of minutes. Montreal, I would not have told you, is in a right now mode right now. We like that. In a right mode. Good. Yeah, that was good. Playing words. But look, now they find themselves 1 win away tomorrow night on home ice to get in the Stanley Cup final. So what do I know? Right? I mean, it just shows you never really know in hockey. You get a hot goaltender and anything can happen. So if you're the Rangers, they made the right move. You got to be happy with it. It seems like everybody is. I haven't really heard negative talk about Gerard Gallant, even when you talk to like Jaromir Jagr made some comments last week for playing with him in Florida, that he's the right man for the job. I'll also bring up, while we're on the subject of coaching stuff, and it is not something that's going to happen anyway, but I did read a lot of things over the weekend with the New Jersey Devils and their coach and Lindy Ruff. If you're the Devils, and I'm going to mention it just because, we try to focus on the local teams somewhat, and we are obviously going to talk about the Islanders in a minute because they're still playing. But if you're the Devils right now, if they went after, supposedly they wanted Gerard Gallant last year. They made an offer, but I guess it was what he wanted was too much money. And we know the Devils' track record. They don't really want to spend a lot of money. But if you're the Devils, what is Lindy Ruff there for right now? You have all these young players. You still look, Jack Hughes, obviously. You've got Ty Smith, who had a good year. You still have Nico Hischier, which I think can be good if he's healthy. And you just, I don't know that he's the right coach for this team. So I read some stuff over the weekend that there's some talk that a lot of people in management were not happy with how the Devils season came out. And I can understand that, but it does not sound to me like the Devils are going to make a move. And if you have an organization like the Devils, and they've always been like this, even when they were good in the late 90s, that are always focused on cash and, they're financially smart, if you will, they're not going to fire a coach after a year and pay the remainder of his contract, right? That's all you really need to know. That's not the Devils' way of doing things. So I do think Lindy Ruff will remain. That was one of the questions we got at our email over the weekend. So I wanted to bring that up when we brought up Gerard Gallant. So here we are now, down to the final 4 teams, and we actually are both series are 3-2. So tonight, Tampa will have an opportunity, please, to end the Islander season, which would make me happy. Now, did you see? Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
because I know you don't sit here and watch the games like I do. Did you see or did you hear what happened in the Islander Tampa game the other night, Game 4? And
the score.
Well, that's Game 5. We're gonna get there.
All right. The time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I tell you.
So no, the only thing I know is that it was like 8-0 on one of their games.
Okay, so that was Game 5. Again, we're jumping ahead. We'll get there. So Game 4 the other night, Saturday night, I'm watching the game. Now, look, I make I don't hide my bias at all. I'm not rooting for the Islanders at all. I've been totally against them. So the series is at that point, it's 2-1 Tampa. And Tampa, if they could win on the Islanders' ice and go up 3-1, it's a big win. The Islanders score 3 goals in the second period. Now they do that, and I turn off the game because to me, I'm like, this is over, right? I wake up in the middle of the night and I have a text from a buddy, and it says, "Oh my God, did you see the end of the Islander game?" So now in my head, I get excited, right? It's like 1:30 in the morning, my adrenaline starts running. Tell me Tampa came back and scored 4. So Tampa had made it 3-2. They pulled the goalie in the last minute. And they this guy, Ryan McDonough, I shouldn't say this guy, the ex-captain of the Rangers, who's now in Tampa, Ryan McDonough, does a spinorama on the goalie, has an open net to tie the game with literally, I think it's like 4 seconds on the clock. And this defenseman Pollock on the Islanders slides across the crease and plays goalie and keeps it out. It was an amazing play, but it was awful too if you were rooting against the Islanders. So that series goes 2-2. So Monday now they had Game 5 down in Tampa, and obviously you know what happened. And I was concerned because again, I'm rooting for Tampa. Sorry, as a Ranger fan, we don't root for the Islanders, and I would expect the same vice versa situation. And Tampa shows up and beats them 8-0, as you said. So you would think now they have a stranglehold on the series, if not certainly the momentum tonight going into Game 6 at the Nassau Coliseum. What do you think happens tonight?
I think it's over for the Islanders. I think they're shell shock from their 8-0 defeat. I would love you to be right, and we'll find out in 12 hours from now because we are taping this episode on Wednesday the 23rd here in June. But the Islanders have been an extraordinarily resilient team this year. I am going to guess tonight they get it to go to Game 7. Wow.
But then I will hope that Tampa wins Game 7.
We're not talking about like 5-3.
No, we're not.
3-0. We're talking about 8-0. That's a little rattling. I know you could say they're resilient, but that's a little rattling.
Well, I would agree, but I do think that team has been very resilient when they've had their backs to the wall. They will have their home crowd at Nassau Coliseum, which is raucous and rowdy in there. behind them tonight. And if as we've seen in sports, we saw it over the weekend, actually twice in basketball with Milwaukee in Brooklyn and Atlanta in Philadelphia. If you go to game 7, look, you want to be the home team. If you told me you could be home or away, but how many times in game 7s in sports do we see the away team win? I mean, it happens. I'd be interested to see if you took the 4 major sports, football. Well, football wouldn't have a game 7. But we'll take a playoff game, which really is
baseball,
a game 7.
Basketball, and hockey. I think
hockey.
They're the only ones that do the multiple.
And I would be curious to see in the last few years, game 7s, what percent of away teams have won? Because I feel like it's got to be close. It's not. Yeah. It used to be a lot more one-sided than it is. And you know why that is?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why. Because I'll give you the Rangers, and it kills me to say this. When you go to a game at Madison Square Garden, the environment is not as home ice friendly as it used to be 20 years ago because now it's a lot of corporate seats. Now, again, we don't know what's going to happen after Corona. Some of those businesses may not exist. But you go to a Ranger game, half the crowd is sitting on their iPhone the whole time. They're not even aware that they are home, or they're actually sitting in a game 7. All right, so you just pulled it up.
This is the NBA.
Okay.
And they say home teams have a record of 109-26 in game 7.
So they win 78.5% of the time, even though this past weekend the 2 away teams won. Okay. Yeah.
Well, but that also taken in count. That's during the AC time frame. You know what the AC time frame is?
No.
After COVID.
Oh.
You know how like BC, AD. This is AC. The world's all changing.
I went into, speaking of that, I got my iced tea that I have. Yes. And I apologize, I was a little late today. I know you were worried.
I was
when I walked in. Yes, I know. I walked into Dunkin' Donuts, where we filmed the studio, and there was a line out. There was literally a line out the door, which is I've seen lines in Dunkin' Donuts, but I haven't seen a line. There was not a single person on the line wearing a mask. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying if you're AC and you're after COVID, we may be going into that time clearly. Because I was like, whoa.
It was a quick, like, it wasn't gradual. It was kind of like, we're open.
Right. It's
kind of fishy.
The last month or so, it's been accelerated.
Yeah. It wasn't a gradual. You would think it'd be gradual.
Right. You would
have to wear your mask when you're in a line or whatever, or when you walk into a restaurant.
But if you still go into like a supermarket around here, the vast majority of people are still in mask.
50-50.
Unless it's
changed. My little coffee here today.
You don't have your kombucha. What happened?
I didn't get kombucha today. I need more caffeine in my life. Relapsing. But yeah, a week ago, 80% masks. Today, 50%.
Okay. So I haven't been. I need to go food shopping, so maybe I will see that when I go. Yeah. But yes, you're right. It has been accelerated, and I would think now. Yeah. As we go into the summer months, although today it's cold again. I don't know what's. My kids actually asked me this morning to warm up the car. I'm like, guys, it's the end of June.
Warm up the car.
It's like the end of June. But in their defense, it was 57 on the car thermometer. But I think now that we go into the warmer months, which is like traditionally where this thing doesn't lurk around, it's going to get even more accelerated to the point where when we get to the fall and it gets cold and it comes back to some extent because they're saying it's a seasonal thing, whether you like it or not. Then people are going to be confused, right? Like, do I have to go find my mask again? I don't know. We don't get into COVID. We don't do science. We do the science of hockey.
True.
And small business.
True.
Speaking of small business,
and
we're going to, I'll mention it. Look, I know you like to say this today. We are going to, I believe next week, start I would call it a summer series. That would actually be a really fancy term. So I'm going to go with it. A summer series of highlighting some small businesses in the area. We've talked about doing it for a while. My schedule got a little bit screwed up with my real job, and also hockey's been going on, so we've had to focus on that. But as hockey now winds down in the summer months, and we don't have football till September, it really is a great time for us to start focusing on some small businesses. And I do think in the next couple of weeks we will do that, hopefully starting next week. So it'll be kind of a fun little shift here for the programming guide.
So if you're interested in being featured on the summer series or sponsoring a show, please email us at mypbshow@gmail.com. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And, again, we don't rehearse this stuff at all because you would think we did. That was you on the fly.
Yeah. Silky smooth.
I tell you.
We're a great team.
We really are. We are like Sonny and Cher. I got you, babe.
Does that mean I'm Sonny?
Sure.
Which
Whatever,
one am I?
whatever, whatever you
Which one
want.
am I?
Whatever you want.
All
You
right.
can pick. I'll be
Okay.
the other one. All right. So the other series. So the Islanders again have a chance tonight to stay alive. Tampa has a chance to close it out. Let's hope that Tampa does emerge and does get at least one win in the next 2 games and eliminates the Islanders. Now, the other series is fascinating. I decided today, I don't know that I've ever worn this. I bought this off a makeshift like jersey site out of China. You know, like,
Yeah.
you ever do that?
There's been times where my friends would come together. You guys had to buy like
Yes.
30 jerseys at the time.
You can buy a few. It's a little bit suspect. If you ever want, I'm saying
in.
what I'm saying is not legal is not really legal, but it is.
I'm in.
So okay, you're in. I got you. Next time I order. So there are sites out there
Yes.
that will sell you jerseys that look exactly like the $200 jerseys that you see for like $30. Okay. And so in the fall, when you and I started the podcast, I said, well, you know what? I should get some different jerseys to use for the show.
Yeah.
As we talk about hockey every week. So one of the ones that I bought, I love Mark Messier. He's my favorite player of all time. Any Ranger fan probably would agree with that, right? He brought us the cup in 94.
Yes.
So they had a Canada, as you can see, I'll move it up, Canada jersey on for dirt cheap. So I decided to get it because I ordered, like you do. You said, you're right. You order in bulk. The shipping is what it is. It's not a bad cost. I don't think I ever wore it. So this morning, I'm like, you know what? Because Montreal is doing so well, and we got to talk about it today, I'm going to wear this Canada jersey that I have.
Nice.
So Montreal, and Brian and I were talking about this before, they're not even that good. Like when you look at this team, they're not that good. And I thought last night when I was watching the game, this is what's fascinating about Montreal. Montreal is now up 3-2. They are 1 win away from eliminating Vegas. Montreal was down 3-1 in the first round versus Toronto and was in overtime in Toronto, right? 1 goal. Just 1 goal, 1 bad bounce in their own net, whatever, however it happens, their season is over. They now are 60 minutes away from going to the Stanley Cup. Now, remember, Canada as a country, again, I don't have anything against Canada. I'm wearing their jersey today. Canada as a country has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993, when which Canadian team, Dougie Sticks, won it?
Montreal.
Correct.
Nice.
Well, you know what? I laid it up for you and you dunked it in like the Phoenix.
Aton.
The Phoenix game last night, which we'll get to in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So Montreal now, I will say this, and I was proven wrong. There have been some debates over the years. I've read about it, and it does kind of annoy me when they compare Henrik Lundqvist to Carey Price. The job that Carey Price is doing here in Montreal to get them to where they are, if Montreal can get to the Stanley Cup and win it, where they then are announcing the Conn Smythe winner of the MVP, I think you have to give it to Carey Price. I mean, this guy is single-handedly carrying a country right now on his back. And if you're Vegas, you cannot lose to the Montreal Canadiens. You made the cup, as we talked about before when I talked about Gerard Gallant. You made the cup in 2018. Nobody expected you to get there. So when you lost, it was like, you know what? It's still a great story, right? Yeah. Then for the last couple of years, they haven't been able to get back. And here you are playing a team that you were a massive favorite in the sports books around the corner from T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. If you walked into MGM Grand or any of the Bellagio, whichever one, they were a massive favorite in the series with home ice. You cannot lose this series right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to find a way tomorrow night on Thursday in Montreal to get the series to Game 7 to go back to Vegas. And that's not even a guarantee because Montreal has already won 2 or 3 games in Vegas. So, like I said, give Montreal credit. They deserve it. Somehow they are just a scrappy team with good goaltending, and they play a system. Shea Weber's had a good playoffs. I'll tell you another guy that has been a great signing up there. He's had an incredible playoff is Corey Perry, the ex-Anaheim Duck, has been outstanding. And look, this young guy, Cole Caulfield, rookie, has been exceptional. He scored again last night. They've just been really good. So maybe we are looking, if nothing crazy happens, at a Montreal-Tampa Stanley Cup final, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's very strange to say that.
Yeah.
I don't think we would be surprised. We wouldn't be surprised at all with Tampa being there. But, man, to get Montreal in a final, and it would be good. You know what? If you're the NHL, from a ratings perspective, look, you get Montreal, you get any Canadian team in it for that matter, but especially Montreal or Toronto, one of the original 6, that has got to be a ratings hit for them.
Yeah.
and the whole country gets behind that. And then although you and I will not get into our debate of what the actual national sport is in Canada, although I think it's hockey, you disagree with me.
I'll pull it up if you want.
No. We've had
lacrosse.
We've had this discussion before, and then we will see. I mean, look, you'd have Tampa that's going to draw fans there because they're loaded. They've got Kucherov and Stamkos and those guys and the defending champs. It would be a good series. I mean, look, whatever you get out of these final four teams, whoever the final two are, will be a good series. But let's just hope it's not the Islanders. Okay?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit basketball because we're going to go there. So the Eastern Conference Finals is set. Starts tonight.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Hawks are in Milwaukee. I have to say, I saw this morning before I came here.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Hawks, and we won't get into betting because we usually do that in the fall with football.
Mm-hmm.
The Atlanta Hawks are getting 8 tonight in game 1. That is I was shocked at that, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
That's like a real lot of points.
And I don't think, I don't like it. I don't like Atlanta. Just like you don't like the Islanders, I don't like Atlanta. I don't like Trae Young either.
I don't like Trae Young as a Knicks fan now. I really don't like him. But when you make bets, you got to put stuff aside, right?
Yeah.
So I was shocked, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting blown out.
No. And I think the Bucks are will better handle the Hawks defensively. Like you put PJ Tucker, who was just guarding Durant a whole series on Trae Young, he's going to be shut down. That kid's not doing anything.
I don't know. Trae Young is, look, he's going to be a star in the league. I don't particularly care for his attitude. I don't like players that are like arrogant and do that sort of stuff. I've never have, even when they're on teams that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then my teams don't ever have those players because my teams are never good.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm not a fan of that. But I will say I was shocked that they were getting 8 points in game 1. I'm not telling you to be a Jeff Sheesby here and go jump on it. We'll see what Jeff thinks. But yeah, I was shocked. And so that'll be a series that is probably not one you had. I guess you could have saw Milwaukee, who was the 3 seed, getting there, but no one really saw Atlanta getting there. I mean, if you go back a month and a half ago before Atlanta started their first round series, well, you know what? Game 1 of the Knicks Hawks was a month ago today. Actually, it was May 23rd. Mm-hmm. No one would have said the Hawks were going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, I don't know how they got there.
And then out west, I'll tell you, it's a weird situation for the NBA because Atlanta and Milwaukee are not major markets. And then out west, you now have Phoenix up 2-0. Phoenix is not a massive NBA market. I would love to know, I'm sure we could pull it up. What were the Phoenix Suns' odds of winning the title at the beginning of the season?
Well, they had one of the best records.
No, I mean like before the season started.
Oh.
Like, let's go back to the winter. Because there's no way it was anything remote.
Yeah, nothing that you would think, but they were playing. They were on the right path.
Yeah, during the year. But I want to know.
I'm talking about like last season. They were getting better and better.
Their coach Monty Williams, who's kind of one of these NBA vets that coaches that go around and coach 4 or 5 teams in their career, has done an exceptional job. I mean, they are now 2 wins away from going to the NBA Finals, and you would have to think that, and you know what? You have it up here. Last year, they were 5 games under 500, but they ended on an 8-game win streak. Maybe that was the sign that maybe they were clicking. But look, if you're Phoenix and you can get to the NBA Finals, you now have to think you have a chance to win the whole freaking thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to get Milwaukee or Atlanta. Not that either of them are a pushover, but yeah, I mean, give them credit.
When they beat the Lakers, I was convinced that we were going to have a Nets-Suns final.
Yeah.
The Suns, they're tough offensively. They're real tough offensively, especially with Chris Paul. Now Chris Paul's out this series and Kawhi is out this series, so it's anybody's series right here. I mean, are we going in depth?
I found it. So when they traded for Chris Paul in the offseason, their odds increased. They went to 25-1. That's still an incredible bet. If you got in on the Suns at 25-1 in the offseason, that is incredible. I mean, last year, now here's the thing. Before they had Chris Paul in 2019, they were 200. Well, 2019 was 2 years ago, so this isn't really fair. But they were 250-1. But now they were 25-1. That's. I mean, look, if you put $100 on that, that's 2,500. Yeah, that's a great bet.
Yeah,
good, and I'm sure there's people out there that have it.
Absolutely.
So they seem to be on it now, up 2-0. I mean, really, Paul George last night. Can you make a free throw, right?
Dude, and not even for what team you want to win. It's the end of the game. You're up 1. Just hit 1 so we can go to overtime. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you always
right.
want the game to continue. I would love to see that game go into overtime. All we had to do is hit that one.
The alley oop at the end of the game last night was so I was watching again. You know me, I'm not a night owl. I'm not up late, but I do tend to like either wake up in the middle of the night or I'm up early because my kids are up. So this morning I looked and I watched the video of it, and they had the play where they were inbounding the pass, like the alley oop.
Yep.
And I saw it was 0.9 seconds and he was inbounding from the corner. I'm like, they're not going to win. And I didn't see who won. I was just watching. I'm like, wow. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I watched it. And you're just you're a little ticked off because that game should have went into overtime, and it went the last. Like, I'm sure if you guys are watching like Sports Center, like everyone's saying, like the last 10 seconds lasted like a half hour because every single little play was reviewed. Like the one play went out of bounds, and like physics, right? If I'm dribbling the ball and you hit it out, like if we're playing street basketball, like it's out on you, you hit it out. But now with technology, they're like seeing like, oh, he hit it out, but like it grazed his fingertip before it went out and stuff like that. So like that happened a lot last night, and infected the game. Jeff Van Gundy is not too happy with the instant replays. He's not very happy.
Jeff Van Gundy's brother was let go this week by the New Orleans Pelicans. And you have to think that this was done with something with Zion. Like Zion had to have not been happy with him. You don't get rid of a coach after one season. And Stan Van Gundy said that, hey, this was a weird year for me to coach to judge how I did because it was COVID year, right? It was like bizarre year. So something had to have been going on behind the scenes because there has been some talk that Zion will leave there. So you have to think that David Gilbert and the management down there in New Orleans has gotten smart and said, look, we got to do whatever we need to do to keep Zion happy because in a couple of years from now, we cannot have this guy leave. But so now, again, the Suns, the Clippers were 5-1, so they had a chance. Let's see who else was on here. Atlanta was 150-1. Wow, that would be the jackpot. So yeah,
to make the finals.
No, to win it all going in the season. Oh. So Milwaukee was 5-1, and the Clippers. So you have those two teams. Although Clippers are now down 2-0. So you had Milwaukee and Clippers at 5-1. You had Phoenix at 25-1, and Atlanta 150-1. And Atlanta will be good now. See, the problem here is this: when your star player is Trae Young, they're going to be good for a long time.
I don't like him. I don't
like him either.
Yeah, but I'm not going to admit to that. I don't like him.
But okay, I don't like him either. But we try to be impartial here, and
I'm totally partial.
We're aware, Dougie Sticks. We're aware. So he's going to be around for a while. So Atlanta will be good going forward. Any predictions on the way the NBA plays out?
So I'm going to say that the Clippers series goes to Game 7. Wow. I think that Kawhi is going to come back. I think there's going to be a Game 7. The Clippers have come back from like 2-0 deficits before. And I think Giannis is going to put a hurting, and PJ Tucker are going to put a hurting on little baby Trae.
So you think that the Clippers will not only get it to Game 7, you think they're going to win in 7?
I think Phoenix Suns are going to win it.
Okay. So you're looking at a Phoenix,
but I think
Milwaukee
they're going to bring
final.
it back. Yeah, Phoenix, Milwaukee. I thought it was going to be Phoenix Nets. I really did. That was going to be tough, but injuries, James Harden playing with one leg and Kyrie was out with the ankle. And like Brooklyn was inches, literally inches. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, I saw it
from winning the game with his foot. And then going back to that game, like I didn't like the last shot Kevin Durant took, the shot that he took that should have been a 3 and won the game. Okay. But then don't do the exact same thing. There's 7 seconds left on the clock. All you need is a 2-point. You put that thing into overtime. Don't take no fadeaway jump shot 3. I know you're tired, but come on.
He didn't come out the whole game, right? Durant, I think he played the whole game.
Pretty much.
I am not. So I didn't have any rooting interest in that series as a Knicks fan. I don't particularly care for Brooklyn. I kind of have a little inferiority complex where like what they have in Brooklyn is what I wanted the Knicks to have with couple stars. Yeah. But we'll see. And we'll see what happens there with Kyrie Irving as well going forward. I mean, Durant obviously clearly has recovered from the ACL injury. I mean, that's not so he's
can't even tell.
And if you're the Knicks now, and it'll be another exciting thing to watch here in the offseason is what do they do? Because they have so many draft picks, they have assets, and they also have cap room. Now, Kawhi Leonard, I think we talked about this last show, is a free agent. That is the one to try. Damian Lillard is going to cost you a ton. Right? If I can just sign a free agent, the Knicks are not next year. Again, I would love to be wrong. next year is not their window's not open yet. They can
Mhm.
get better, but are they probably going to be the Phoenix Suns of next year? No.
Do you think Dame cares about money or cares about winning at this point? He's been with Portland for how many, 5 seasons now?
I would, but so in that sense, he'd have to get traded to a contender, and a contender is probably not
So
going
he's not a free agent?
No, he's not. He wants out.
Oh.
It's a trade. So he would have. I mean, if you're a contender, I'm not sure he's the right fit for you because you're going to have to give up a lot of what made you a contender. It's kind of like you're giving up. You'd have to get a really good deal.
Yeah.
If you're the Knicks right now, if I could sign Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard, even though he's been hurt, he did prove, especially in the Dallas series last round, how valuable he can be. Right? He's still good. My goodness. If we could somehow get
Kawhi and Dame in the Knicks, man,
no, you won't get them both. Plus, you still have Randall.
Kawhi is a free agent.
Kawhi is a free agent. Dame is not. That's why Kawhi is the answer of the two. Now, would you look if they both were free agents? I'd rather Dame, right?
But you get to understand the league we're in right now. These guys are teaming up.
Yeah, super teams.
And they're making super teams. They're getting their 2 best friends, and they're saying like, "Let's go."
Which reminds me, I have today. I'm a Knicks season ticket holder.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, and I just saw my wife had emailed me because she gets the emails too. At 1:00 today, we have our you basically log on to your season ticket portal and you have like your 4 seats that you have, and you can keep your 4 seats. No one questions asked, but you can then see what other seats are available. So you can either upgrade, downgrade, whatever. Nice. I will guarantee you there will be extraordinarily limited amount of anything available because of how well they did this year. The Knicks are now a hot ticket. And so for me, but with the Rangers a couple weeks ago when they did it, I was able to actually move my seats, which I've never been able to do before.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if it's because the Rangers didn't have a good year or if it's because COVID has knocked out a lot of like corporate seats. So a lot of stuff people didn't renew, right? People lost their jobs or whatever. It'll be interesting today at 1:00 to see how they do it with the Knicks.
Are the prices drastically different? Like if you go over 3 rows,
yes.
So it's not like you can just kind of shift over because it's open.
But now you can shift over and pay the difference. Like it'll say, look, you can take these seats and they are 87 a game versus 79 or whatever. But they maximize. I mean, they're not
maximize
dumb.
Every
These people that do the seating stuff at Madison Square Garden for both their teams are not dumb at all. Sure. They know what they're doing. So tune in. Like I said, next week we will be back to our weekly format, which makes Dougie Sticks happy.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, it's always nice to come here, especially with the red lights now showing the on air.
Yes.
So I will be back. We will be back next week, every week going forward. Hopefully, we may take a week off in August for vacation. We'll talk to Dougie Sticks about that.
We can go remote. I got a week in August too that I might have to go remote.
Maybe it's the same week. We could both be remote.
Where are you going?
I'm not sure. We may be away internationally. Now there'll be Wi-Fi there.
I won't be there. If any, I'll be in Wildwood.
a little bit more convenient.
Come down the street. Let's go live.
Yeah. No, maybe we'll figure out something. But at least for the month of July, we plan to be every week. And then in August, and I was excited about this. For Father's Day, my son got me like a football kind of frame to go to like a game. I haven't been to an NFL game in probably 15, 16 years. And honestly, I don't really have much of a desire to go, but he asked to go. So I looked last night thinking that like maybe we'll go to a preseason game because it's easier than a regular game. And I didn't realize that like mini camps start in 4 weeks. So we're like kind of close to, Tyler kind of hooked it up with that. And it made me realize that last night. So we will in August, once we do our a spotlight series on small businesses in July, we'll be back into football. And I plan to bring on a fantasy guy that is awesome. We'll get Sheesby back on the show.
Absolutely.
We'll try to break the 21-year drought that I have of never winning a fantasy title in my big league.
Let's win. One of us needs to win this year.
We know the heartbreak we both win. And you usually can mark it down that the heartbreak will happen again. It usually does. It's an annual occurrence around here, Dougie Sticks. So we will bring that into the program in a couple weeks, football coming back. And then we will also follow, of course, in the summer, the Rangers offseason situation. We'll follow the Knicks offseason situation. And that will be exciting with both teams to see what they do here going forward. Anything else from you, sir?
No. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Those are some good recaps.
That was good recaps. And I will say that was basically, and I'm not proud of this, there was almost no prep. And I usually do have a list, as you see. Yeah. My list today is very minimal because we've been just running around. But like I said, next week when the kids go to camp and just done with school, I maybe have some more time to prepare, which will be good.
Nice.
So you can send your questions at any time. And I know we got to a couple of them, especially with the Devils, at mypbshow@gmail.com. You can email us there at any time. And stay tuned next week. We will probably be starting our Spotlight on Small Business series that will begin next week. And we will see you soon. Take care. And thanks for listening, everybody.